Good afternoon, lower sixth. So this is the walkthrough video for your 20 marker that you've done. You've had a bit of a play with 20 markers. We've talked about them in class, excuse me, and this is a bit more in depth. I want you to get into the thought process of very quickly planning your 20 marker so you hit the different levels of, for instance, knowledge that are required in context. Now with the 20 marker, you're always going to have two options. And also you've got the hook and the question, which you're going to need to demonstrate an understanding of that theory as well. So there's sort of three levels of theory that you need to cover in the question. We need chains of argument, like in our 10s and 12s. And as you progress through the lower sixth and into the upper sixth, we'll talk about more advanced 20 mark technique. But what we'll do at the moment is we'll talk about basic low level 4 technique. So three chains of argument minimum, hopefully more, contextualize, balanced arguments, answers the question, and we're also going to talk about MOPs. That should get you to level 4. The more advanced towards the end of it, we'll cover a little bit later in the course, but we need to be able to walk before we can run, shall we say. So this is the question. And you've done this for prep, and I gave you lots of scaffolding in this activity. So I'm expecting a lot of context. Some of you would have written way too much. So this video is also an encouragement for you to probably write less and to think about what you're writing before you write it. A little bit of planning. Now, I focused a lot on planning. There's no ways you would write this as a plan, but I want you to get your head into the mindset of how you plan these questions. So step one, as always, we need to identify the hook in the question. Now with 20 markers, this is easy because they mention it twice. So we have got to make profit, and we're looking for was likely to have been more effective at making profit. Okay, so the question is more effective. It's not, so this is our hook. It's not choose one or the other. It's asking you which one is more effective. So you need to make sure that you are answering the question. Do not fall into the trap of going on autopilot and saying, I recommend they do this one because this one will be more profitable. You will not be 100% answering the question. Okay, so go very careful. So now we've identified the hook, which is going to be more effective at making Hornby profitable. We need to consider how Hornby, very quickly, how would they make more profit? Well, they could sell more model trains. They could charge more for the model trains. They could lower the cost of production of their model trains. And there's lots of other things they do as well. But there was a train picture at the beginning of this. And the case study, as you know, refers to Harry Potter's train. So we understand that if you sell more volumes at the same price, we're going to increase overall profitability. If we charge more, we could increase that gross profit margin. However, remember the rules of supply and demand. That could be one of our however points. However, if you charge more, maybe less people buy them. And also remember the competitive rivalry. There are other model train companies out there. Okay, so if they charge too much, then maybe they become more niche and maybe people don't have the money. We think about those MOPs already, you know, the economy, disposable income, food inflation that you're reading about in the news, maybe less money to spend on trains. Okay, if I lower my costs, well, maybe I don't lower the cost of my trains, but maybe I'm buying cheaper materials for my trains, and therefore these model train enthusiasts might think is substandard. When Hornby started making all of their trains in China, some of the fans of model trains didn't like it. So we're then thinking about how they might, in context with the case study, how they might increase profitability. So they could diversify their product range. They could do the Harry Potter. They could integrate some of the tech in there. In my MOPs, one of them I thought about the new Apple Glass that's coming out. Maybe the augmented reality. I could really geek out and set my model train up, and I could put my Apple glasses on and I could be literally driving my train around the track. That sounds cool. So they could, get online. They could remind me of how brilliant and this quintessentially British brand of model trains are. They could use that to enter new markets, by the way. So we've got marketing campaigns aimed at using data, identify the market segments that might buy these trains, target them, spend your marketing money well. However, you get your targeting wrong, maybe it's less effective. We've got counter arguments linked to profitability. Our cost management, I've mentioned, we could improve the production quality. That could lower the cost of production, not necessarily damaging the quality of the trains. Do not default to lower the cost of production, therefore substandard trains. It could be just improving manufacturing practices, like making it in China because the cost of production is cheaper. However, you've already had the counter argument. So they can engage more with customers, build a rapport with the enthusiasts that are willing to pay a premium price for these trains. Listen to the community. Actually, this might build more brand loyalty. And if your competitors aren't doing it, very good point for an essay, maybe they choose you over someone else. Licensing agreements, this could be going into a deal with Harry Potter, for example, or J.K. Rowling, or whoever the company is that owns the brand, Warner Brothers, and then licensing it. Then you've got that brand loyalty and yours, and hopefully you're then targeting your product at two slightly different markets there. The Harry Potter brand might add value to your train brand. It might detract it. We've seen the negative press about the author of Harry Potter. Market research, just make sure you understand who you're selling to, and then hopefully you'll develop the right products and then maximize your sales linked to profits. And global expansion, maybe go into markets where you're not already. When we go into the upper sixth, we will talk about a model called Ansoff's matrix. We can talk about the risks associated with that once you learn the model. So step 2. Let's define the key terms. So we need to define these in context. There's no point in just defining from the textbook. We're going to look for opportunities. So we know we've got promotional methods. Okay, we're looking for promotional methods in here. Now they're normally going to give you 1 or 2 examples. Okay, so you've read the massive case study, and we can see we've got media, social media campaign. Yep, daily posts. Throughout the campaign, it encouraged customers. There's 2 different things there. We've got the advertising campaign, our social media campaign, and we've got engaging with customers and interacting with them. Okay, so we've got some contextual examples that we can easily talk about here. Instead of you struggling to memorize the perfect definition, why don't you just describe it in context? You're going to nail the knowledge marks, and more importantly, your answer is already in context. At the beginning of each of your sections, because we're going to have 2 really different sections, 2p paragraphs in each, a plus and a minus, but option 1 might be promotional methods. Promotional methods for, and we would write that in context. So we're looking at innovation here. Well, you should be thinking, well, what is product orientation, technological integration, and also how they're adapting to the market. So again, in context, we've got Scalextric sets, we've got Harry Potter, we've got context here. There's no real excuse for writing an abstract answer. We've got mobile controlled racing sets, for example, where you can get an app for your phone and control your train. I feel I'm geeking out already. This is great, but it's context. You describe the context. This is one of the main reasons students get lower marks in essays, is they write something that sounds technically okay, but it's all theory based. Therefore, you're going to get capped, okay? Adapting to the market, and we would contextualize those changing consumer interests. We've got Harry Potter here. I'm currently watching the new Percy Jackson series on Netflix. Percy was attacked last week on a train. You know, maybe that's an opportunity to have a Percy Jackson train set. If they do, can I have some commission, please? So now we need to get in the habit of writing contextualized definitions. You need to practice this when you're doing prep so you can do it on autopilot when you're under timed pressure. So for example, I'm not going to write both of these at the start of my essay because I would write about promotion possibly first. So here's my contextualized definition. For Hornby, this helps me to instantly think about Hornby and not just the textbook. Promotion involves using modern marketing strategy, particularly digital and social media platforms, to encourage customers and rejuvenate the brand interest. Social media is in the case study, that's contextualized. Innovation for Hornby is the process of introducing new and creative product lines and technological enhancements to meet the changing market demands. Now, when I wrote this, it sounded very textbooky, and I thought, hang on, I've not contextualized this. Now, I've noticed that. So instead of just rewriting it, which none of us have got time for, I just stuck an EG on the end of it. For example, Hornby launching a Harry Potter train set. Okay, so we've contextualized it, even though initially I had forgotten. So step 3, let's consider, we wouldn't write all this down clearly to start off with, we're considering the pros and cons. This is why when you're writing your notes for each chapter, you've got to have a good definition, hopefully contextualized against something you'll remember, and pros and cons. This is how we write essays. So innovation. I've contextualized this for you. You can read through these, and it's sort of a repeat of what we've already said. But if you look at those disadvantages there, high cost in research and development, that could be extremely abstract. So I would need to make sure I contextualize that. In developing new shapes of trains, because they're going to need new machinery to do that. There's a huge amount of investment in that possibly. Describing it makes it contextualized. High cost in research and development, abstract rubbish out of a textbook. It's correct, but it's abstract. We could be talking about McDonald's here, or we could be talking about trains or nuclear power stations. Your essay in this case needs to be about Hornby model trains. So make it so. Promotion. We've got some other abstract things there. I'm just thinking about the theory. I'm thinking about the advantages and disadvantages that I'm going to contextualize. Okay, the risk of promotion is it's going to be expensive. Now I'm thinking of product life cycle. I'm thinking the introduction stage of the product life cycle for the new Harry Potter train set. Now this is quite important because I might be spending a load of money on advertising. Now if I don't target it properly, maybe people don't buy trains. Okay, I'm losing that money. Okay, or I'm not selling the volumes that I expected in context with how much money I'm spending on marketing, therefore lowering profitability. Everything comes back to that hook. Now we're on to writing it. So we've thought about pros and cons. We've identified evidence for our promotion and innovation. We're going to need a couple of bits of evidence here because each point is going to have a P paragraph advantages and a P paragraph disadvantages. The whole second paragraph is your counter argument. Remember, this is an introduction to 20-mark technique. It's not a perfect answer. It's okay. And I'm thinking it's level 4. And if anyone wants to argue with me, you are most welcome, as long as you use the marking grids, which I'll put up at the end of this. So we understand that the hook, and this is pretty much my plan. So I would have thought about everything, but first of all, I would have circled that, and I'd have put a H next to it in my plan. That's pretty much what I'm going to do. I know that that comes at the end of each of my paragraph points. I know we are looking at 2 options. Option 1, this is how I plan, by the way, innovations, and option 2 is that. I can't remember which order I've typed them in now, but anyway. So that is my plan. Other people might plan in other ways. We know that we have to, 1 is likely, I can't say both of them are brilliant, do both, or both of them are equally potentially effective at generating profit. We need to choose one that is more effective. And remember, that does not mean I recommend they choose this one. Well, you're not answering the question. On to our first one. I've written option 1, innovation. I wouldn't write that in the exam, by the way. I'll just start off with innovation. And think about our P paragraph and our chains of argument. So my point is innovation drives long-term profitability. Okay? Then I'm going into my chain of argument instantly. This is because innovative products can capture new market segments, leading to increased sales, not profits yet, is it? Resulting in higher profit margins, very abstract at the moment, if model trains, wow, model train enthusiasts, that's a bit of evidence. I'd put AP next to that if I was marking, are willing to pay a premium price. Okay, so we've got willing to pay a premium price is a chain of argument. We've got the BLT in there if you're hungry. And it's a bit contextualized, model train enthusiasts. I think there's better evidence in the case study for that, and also belts and braces. I'm going to want a bit more evidence in there. For example, the introduction of tech-enhanced scale electric sets aimed to attract tech-savvy young consumers, potentially boosting sales, hopefully profits. Okay, I've ended in profits. Great. I've not landed on sales and done a TikTok-style business essay. There's at least 5 chains of argument in there, by the way, which is where we want to be, but you want a minimum of 3 or you're not getting into level 4. So, however, what a wonderful way to tell the examiner, hold tight, here comes my counter argument. However, innovation can be costly and risky. Point. This is because research and development requires significant investment without guaranteed returns, potentially leading to financial losses, chain of argument, resulting in, another chain of argument, a direct impact on profitability. We've got the hook there, totally abstract so far. Here comes the context. The development of Harry Potter's train set requires substantial investment with uncertain market success, because we don't know if they're going to sell loads of them, do we? If sales are lower than forecasted, because there's the if, this could result in lower profits. Profitability, 5 chains of argument, probably. Option 2. Promotion boosts short-term sales. Point. This is because effective marketing campaigns can rapidly increase brand visibility, leading to a surge in sales, resulting in short-term impact on profitability. All abstract at the moment, 3 chains of argument, and we've got a bit of knowledge in there. We need context. For example, we have seen this with Hornby's Hornby 100 campaign aimed at increasing brand awareness and driving sales, which would have helped boost profitability due to the increase in unit sales. Not just it will boost profits, because they have sold more units. I'm hoping they're making profit on each unit, hey? You can count them, there's 5 chains of argument. However, look how short this paragraph is, eh? High costs of promotion may not yield long-term profits. My point. This is because forgot a couple of words there. Extensive marketing campaigns are expensive. This could, not definitely, we never have definitely, do we, in an essay? Those assertions are dangerous. Could lead to significant increases in costs, resulting in reduced net profit, bit of knowledge there, if the ad campaign, bit of context, is not successful. Let's make sure the context is nailed. The costs involved in a digital campaign, more context from the case study, can be substantial, impacting overall profitability. Okay? It's balanced, count the chains of argument. It's got context in there. It actually answers the question. Now, what we've not done at the moment, we've not really compared and contrast the arguments. And that's something we will practice over time in our paragraphs to really boost our marks, hopefully. But Let's see if we do a bit of a comparison here. Overall, I do like overall or in conclusion or stuff like that, but just a gap between the paragraphs. Examiners see overall, here's the conclusion. They're not going to miss it in a sea of text. While both innovation and promotion are crucial, we're not saying choose one, are we? That's not the question. Innovation seems more likely to have been more effective. Wow, I wonder where we got those words from. With Hornby's long-term profitability. Now, it's important that we focus on long-term versus short-term here. I think short-term, do a bit of promotion, sell more trains. Long-term profitability, actually that innovation probably is, if it works, probably is going to be better. Now, I need to justify my answer because this is, if we were marking this, we'd put an A next to this when we answer the question. Now, our justification sort of starts here. Innovation drives sustained growth, bit of a claim there, by attracting new markets, hopefully, whereas promotion, despite its immediate sales impact, may not guarantee long-term profits due to its high costs. Because if you're constantly advertising, maybe that erodes your profitability. Sort of a justification, but this is a comparison of the two arguments. And it's really important that we do that, by the way, for 20 markers. Now, with our MOPs, we'll master this over time. And here's obviously what MOP stands for. We've done this in class: markets, objectives, or ownership, depending on the question, products or service, and the situation in the economy. And I'm not going to read through these. You can pause and have a look through it. You can see here is my Apple Glass, quite fancy a pair of those. So especially if I'm able to drive a train that I've built the track for, how cool would that be? So that would be quite good. In the news this morning, CPI is down to 3.9%. They're expecting it to drop to about 2%. They're still expecting wage growth to continue above that. I've linked that into disposable income. If you're reading the news, you'll know this, which is why I encourage you to read current affairs all the time. Here's a bit of Percy Jackson for you as well. Okay, hopefully that's useful. You'll notice that I've really written a lot. But there is a bit of planning in there, and actually by the time we're nervous under exam conditions and there's a bit of waffle, and when we master this in the upper sixth, we might be dropping a bit of ANSOP in there to discuss risk, a bit of Porter's 5 forces to talk about that power of the supplier, for example, with the branding or with increased production. Maybe we're going to bring in a bit of economies of scale. If we're going to charge more, maybe we'll bring in a bit of PED. I've mentioned more disposable income, which could be a little bit of YED. Okay, so these answers might get a bit bigger, but more importantly, you've got to plan it and write it in 24 minutes. This is the structure I've used. There's no magic formula for these things. So you'll go onto various websites and they'll give you lots of different opinions on how to write essays. This is the only stuff that we care about. Was the knowledge accurate and thorough? Was it in context? I hope so. Were there a minimum of 3 chains of argument? Hopefully 5, because we want fully developed. We'll talk more about that in class and in future preps. Was there any quantitative data? Were we doing maths? Well, there wasn't in the case study, so we're not going to worry about that for now. But was there qualitative information used to support the judgments? Hopefully. Were we talking about the validity and significance of the competing arguments? We explored that a bit to introduce the justification there. We'll practice that a bit more, to be honest with you. It was okay, it wasn't brilliant. I'm thinking it's level 4, but it's not 20 out of 20. We've got a recommendation there in some ways, but sometimes they say choose one option. That would definitely be a recommendation. This was a bit of a different question. So it wasn't so much a recommendation other than in the conclusion, it did say, they could do this, yeah, because that's going to be a high likelihood of profitability.